the UCT Black Forum, calling for the institution's council to be dissolved with immediate effect. The probe, led by retired Judge Lex Mpati, found that former Vice-Chancellor Professor Mamokgethi Phakeng and ex-council chairperson Babalwa Ngonyama were dishonest and misled the institution about the departure of the head of teaching and learning, Professor Lis Lange. Post the release of the findings, the university apologized for the governance failures under the previous council. Let's get you some analysis on this issue now. We're joined this morning by UCT's Black Forum spokesperson, Dr. Sabelo. Hadebe, it's great to talk to you. Thanks very much indeed for coming on. It's such a complicated issue, isn't it? But perhaps let's begin with your stance on why you're making this call.
Well, thank you for having me on the show. So I think it is clear from the report, I mean, this is not something new. I think several academics, even the unions, who also presented in the parliamentary committee, had requested that the Council of UCT be dissolved. I mean, this was even before this independent investigation took place. So I think that has been a general feeling towards the council. I mean, immediately after, everything else that had been going on in the media and the leaking of information to the media, which was happening within council. I mean, I think at that point everyone felt that definitely council should go. I mean, even from the report itself, council does say that they have lacked in terms of some of the governance issues they should have dealt with, and they were not forefront in terms of what was going on in the institution, and they didn't deal with those issues as they should have. So that is the general feeling of the Black Forum, is that council should really go. Because, I mean, potentially the damage to the institution, which has already happened, but also the potential damage that can happen to the institution in the next 8 months, because, I mean, their term finishes in June 2024. So it's some of those issues.
So, you're talking to a loss of faith in the council. The spokesperson for the council, or rather the chairperson of the council, Norman Ardenser, has apologized on behalf of the council, he says, for not exercising its fiduciary responsibilities timeously or acting in the best interests of the university. It's a bit late for that kind of apology, isn't it, given just the extent of everything that's happened?
Yeah, I mean, it is definitely a bit late. I don't think that you needed an independent panel to tell you that you were not doing your fiduciary duties as you should. I think that they had been aware that they were not doing that. I mean, some of the issues that come up in terms of governance are issues related to what was also that the previous chair of council was aware of. That of Mr. Sipho. So some of those issues stem from that, and obviously the new council had to deal with some of those issues. But it's clear that from the get-go they failed to deal with that. I mean, really the first thing that they had to deal with was the report of the Ombud, which they voted. All of them voted in that particular meeting, and they voted to take option 4, which is a decision that they made themselves as council. So to say that we were not aware, we should have acted. I think that they actually have been acting, but the issue is whether that was always in the best interest of the institution. And I think probably the answer to that is no. It has not always been in the best interest of the institution. It seems that it has been in the best interest of whatever faction is in control or has numbers in council. And that's essentially what we've seen playing out in the last 18 months or so.
And of course, the staff exodus that also happened in the last 18 months, that also needs to be accounted for. Where does the tenure of Professor Mamokgethi Phakeng fit in here, Sabelo?
So there are lots of things that obviously happened. This was before Mamokgethi joined and after she had joined. I mean, obviously some of the things that I mentioned in the report is the exodus of senior leaders. within the executive. So, I mean, the DVC of transformation, for example, was one of those who left, I think probably towards the mid-2020 or early 2021. So that is one. But then there's many others that left after that. And on the report, it also says that some of them left for different reasons. And it was clear that from the, even when the previous chair was there, that they had been, major issues within the executive, which some of them could not have been resolved because it meant that, they just could not work together as a group. And so you had a situation whether you keep the VC or you release the rest of the executive. So I think those are some of the issues. But then you also remember that council is the same council that overwhelmingly supported Mamokgethi for her second term. So they were willing to have her for another 5 years. So it then begs the question of where do the issues stem from? Because it seems that she has support from her first term, with challenges, but she has support, and she goes into the second term, and she still has major support. So when does it all go wrong?
Yeah.
So I think there are much more complex issues around that, and I think a lot of those issues also stem from within the four members of the executive.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah, it is such a complicated issue, isn't it? Because Mamokgethi Phakeng's proponents will tell you that she was targeted because she is a black woman. On the other hand, there's this exodus of staff members who say that they were victimized by the former VC for various reasons, some of them saying that they faced essentially constructive dismissal, right? When you talk about how complicated this issue is, because supporters of the former VC will tell you, perhaps if she had conducted herself in exactly the same way as Max Price did, there would have been the same outcome, essentially because she is a black woman in this leadership position. And then you can also look at the track record of UCT, how that institution flourished on the international scale insofar as her leadership is concerned. So which is it? Or can multiple things be true at the same time?
I think it's possible that multiple things can be true at the same time, but we also need to remember that we cannot compare the leadership style of different VCs. Max Price had different challenges, and Mamokgethi had different challenges, and she had to deal with them differently from how Max Price had dealt with his own challenges, right? So it's hard to then compare the two because they exist in slightly different periods in UCT. But I mean, also, of course, it is a known fact that the university improved under Mamokgethi. I think she did an excellent job. Yes, there's also issues that, which were raised by the Ombuds report, which I think Council had enough time to deal with those issues in various ways, in ways that they decided to deal with them, which is what is in the report. Yes, I mean, of course, with any really complicated role like that of a VC, you are really the leader of the ship, or you're steering the ship, and everyone in the ship has to believe in you as a leader and has to believe that you are going to execute what is in the best interest of the institution. And that being said, it also, remember that Mampela Rompela also was a VC at UCT. She never finished her first term. And I think that there are also several challenges, particularly for Black African women within the institution, particularly in executive positions, where I think they will face challenges. And I don't think it's unique to Mamokgethi. I think that if you were to replace her with somebody else, I think we would find fault with that person too. Yeah. So I don't think that it's unique issues. I mean, yes, there's a personality of Mamokgethi as a person, but also remember that there are also issues around that she has no control over, the committees that she has to chair and whether she has support within that. So I think it's a really, really difficult place to place a person. And I think that is something that is potentially could have happened to any other person that looks like Mamokgethi but who is not necessarily her. I think that we need to be very honest about that. I don't think that the institution is in a position to place another person that looks like Mamokgethi in that same position. I don't think that unless we change something in terms of how we govern the institution, I don't think we are in that position to be able to do that.
I mean, is it fair to say that these kinds of issues, in many respects, just given its history, are perhaps in some ways unique to UCT? And then a follow-on question from that, is the institution ready to deal head-on with these kinds of race-related issues?
So, yeah, I mean, some of the issues are unique to UCT. Remember that UCT is part of many former white universities, or whites-only universities, Wits being one of them, and the UKZN being one of those universities. And they've had successive multiple VCs within their institutions for the last 15, 20 years. So, but it seems that UCT is the only one that has really struggled to deal with senior executives from designated groups. I think that is quite clear now. So I think that the issues are unique, but you'd also remember from the IRTC report and the Mayos report, some of the things that came up were that, universities in the Western Cape, particularly from a white university in the Western Cape, have a particular challenge, which other universities in the rest of the country do not have. So it is issues that are unique to UCT. Does UCT have a way of dealing with these issues, race-related issues? I think that we are not there. I mean, we are nowhere near that. I don't think that we are able to really look deep in ourselves and ask the questions of whether we are ready to be led by a black female VC or even a chair of council or whoever in a very senior position. Are we ready as an institution for that?
Why do you think that is, Dr. Hadebe, that this is a particular issue facing institutions in the Western Cape?
I think it's just a unique position. I think what the RTC report, the way that they put it in that report is that it's really the last place of what is called white supremacy, and I think until we deal with that, until we are able to head on and deal with it, we will always encounter these issues. It doesn't matter who you try and put in that position. It doesn't matter what kind of personality they have. I think you're gonna find yourself in the exact same situation. So I think those are the challenges that we really need to think about. I mean, you'd also remember that in Stellenbosch a while ago, again, a black VC couldn't, they never finished their term. And so these are issues that by the look of it, they seem to be very specific to the Western Cape. So yeah, it's things that we need to face head on and ask ourselves on why we are unable to keep people to finish their term. I mean, even one term, I think that is quite worrying. I think we have to find ways to deal with that. But I mean, some of it is really going back to the university statutes and ask ourselves on who makes decisions in senior governance structures. So whether it's council, whether it's senate, whether it's institutional forum, and that's where we probably need to start, because if we make a good shake-up on that, those structures, governance structures, should be able to support whoever black leaders we put forward. Yeah,
certainly damning for an institution of its stature that it continues to struggle with issues of transformation. Dr. Sabelo, Hadebe, let me thank you for your time this morning. The UCT Black Forum joining us this Friday.